So a couple of days ago, there was a music festival in the UK known as the Glastonbury. And I guess this is some sort of gathering for hippies or something of that nature, right? Where the woke collide, get together, take a whole bunch of drugs, and basically spaz the hell out, pissed off about Israel. I guess that's what this is. At least that's what it showed itself to be after the story broke. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all. I had no idea who the hell Bob Villain was until this story, and I still really don't know much about them. I'm still almost sure that there are two members of the group. They consider themselves as actual musicians, though, again, I can't name a single song, and likely most of us cannot name a single song. But the reason why they're making headlines is this. They decided that it was a wise idea to get up on stage and to chant, well, not only Free Palestine, which is a sort of coded language nowadays for hatred towards, I would say Israel, but it's honestly just Jews in general, right? If we're to be all the way real, that's what that means. Not only did they yell free, free Palestine, but they thought it was a brilliant idea to yell, chant, and even have the crowd chant back, death to the IDF. Yeah. Now, for those y'all who may not be familiar with what the IDF is, it is essentially the entire Israeli population. You see, the IDF is the Israeli Defense Force. And as a citizen of Israel, you are required to be a part of the IDF. I believe for women, it's 2 years. For men, it's 4 years. Y'all can correct me in the comment section. But you're required to become a part of this force. Tiny country, tiny population, who, for obvious reasons, need to be able to protect themselves. You know, just in case, I don't know, you may someday be attacked, ransacked, kidnapped, that sort of thing. Yeah. Turns out that in the UK, you can go to prison for a conservative meme or for criticizing Islam. But if you yell death, death to the IDF, you're given a massive stage and a crowd of tens of thousands of people. Now, fortunately, here in the United States, there just so happens to be a law known as a law of FAFO, or as some would know it, F around and find out. And these Bob Dylan or Bob Villain characters, there's going to be a copyright issue with that, by the way. These Bob Villain characters found themselves activating the law of FAFO as they have had their visas revoked from the U.S., which means their entire tour that they're going to have here to all 12 of their fans is no longer a thing. Oh, and their management team dropped them, which means good luck booking any more shows. And essentially, the sane, rational-minded, and humane people on this planet are not only boycotting them, because can you really boycott something that you're never really engaged with? But these guys are now highlighted for the hateful hate mongers and propagandists that they actually are. So let's go ahead and watch the actual clip. And then I want to just take a deeper dive into this conversation of, is this freedom of speech? Like, are these guys having their freedom of speech violated by the American government? Do they have a right to stand up there and yell what they're yelling? And, well, rest of those type of shenanigans. Let's get into this video.
Free, free. Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF. 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 Death, death to the IDF.
Yeah, that's going to be more like death, death to y'all careers, because it's over. Now, some folks out there, mostly, obviously, these so-called folks on the left, the so-called progressives, as well as those on the fringe right, the so-called woke right, far right, whatever it is you may classify it, are saying that this is an infringement upon these people's freedom of speech. Now, I want to bring this just to the land of logic for a second, right? We don't need to go into any deep, nuanced, esoteric type of conversation. Let's just bring it to just straight up real life, grounded. Here we are. So let's replace IDF with just a couple of maybe other words, right? So let's do the same chant, death, death to Let's replace IDF with blacks. How do you think that would go over in any country at this point, at least any Western country at this point? Death to fill in the blank. We have blacks. Okay, fantastic. Let's have Muslims. No, because you see, when we talk about the IDF, it's not like we're talking about just some small secluded group that, no, we're talking about an entire population of people. It's coded language, as the left likes to I guess, classify it as, right? A dog whistle, per se. What they mean when they say Zionist is Jew or Jewish. Because what Zionist means is that you believe that the Israelis deserve to exist, is that Israel deserves to exist, is that the Jewish population deserves to have a homeland. That's what you're saying when you say Zionist. So if we can put Zionist on it, when the likes of the Candace Qatari Owens calls them the Frankists, or, you know, she puts whatever other classification on it. Yeah, that's a quote unquote dog whistle for Jewish. Simple. So let's take it back to these generalized groups of people. Death to the, I don't know, Mexicans. How's that going to work? How's that going over? I mean, just sending people back to the country that they came from after they broke into the United States is already controversy at this point, let alone wishing for the extermination of those people. So when we get into this conversation of freedom of speech, I think something that's oftentimes missed out on is the reality that you do have a freedom to speak, but you do not have a freedom to the consequences that come as a byproduct of that. For example, if you are in a movie theater and you yell fire, fire. If you're in an airport and you yell, that's the bomb. Whatever the context may be, it is likely that you end up in handcuffs. But what about my freedom of speech? Your freedom of speech is extended to the very, I'm talking about the edge. But over that edge is when you step into actual inciting of violence. Somebody goes out there and says, you know, I'm going to assassinate this person, execute that person. I'm going to take these people out. We're going to take these people out. Death to these people. Like, it's only when it is brown, quote unquote, brown people doing it where it's made okay, or black people. It's like racism in America. Oh, well, black people cannot be racist. So therefore you have an opportunity to be the most racist because you are justified in your racism. It's the exact same thing. So because most of the Muslim population are brown people, they get to say, I don't know, death to America, death to Israel, and just sort of skirt by with that. You know, they get all these expositions, these long form theses about, well, they technically don't actually mean that. What they're really saying is that they have been oppressed by the system. No, what they're saying is what they're saying. I'm taking them for their word. In the same way, if somebody told me that they were wishing death upon me, I would take that seriously. And I'm going to do whatever is necessary to protect myself. AKA, I will call the FBI. Cash Money Patel directly. You get in the cuffs. So this is not a matter of quote unquote free speech. This is a matter of inciting. And if you don't want to believe me, go ahead and see what's been going on those college campuses behind the so-called Free Palestine movement. See what's been happening to Jewish students, or even those who are perceived to be, or even those who are allied with these students. Go ahead and see. And the justification is, well, but these are colonizers. Really? Really? That kid in that university is a colonizer. Or better yet, let's go to the nation state of Israel. They're the colonizer. Okay, fantastic. So we have how many? Around 7 million actual Jews living in Israel, I believe it is. And then they are surrounded by hundreds of millions of those who see them as their mortal and immortal enemies. You have large sloots of land that have been occupied by the Arabs, and that's not considered as colonizing. People who speak the same language throughout, and that's not considered as colonizing. People who literally force their way into people's homes. As south as, or far west south as Nigeria, all the way to Southeast Asia. And that's not considered as colonized. It's a whole bunch of hogwash. It's dog water. It is disingenuous and it's excuses to be hateful. That's all it is. And a lot of folks are going to realize, I think maybe in 10 years or whatever, the side of history they were actually standing on. Like I said this recently on an X post. I said, you know, when Winston Churchill was speaking up against the little mustache man regime, they called him a warmonger. They said that he was just, you know, he was bloodthirsty. If you heard that before, they said that this man was essentially just looking for war, until all of a sudden he was deemed as a hero, as the first one to actually do something about that little problem that they had in Europe. So how many Churchills are there right now crying out and saying, hey, guys, the path that we're going down is a very dangerous path. I just got the news yesterday, actually last night, as I was doing my final bit of research, that there, after the attack in Boulder, Colorado, where there was a group of elderly Jewish people, I think there was kids there too, but there was a peaceful gathering, and there was this insane Soliman or something like that, an Egyptian immigrant who threw he threw an explosive into the crowd, burning around 7 people between the ages like 70 and 90 or something like that. And at least one of these women or one of these individuals died. And the man, as he threw this explosive, yelled, "Free Palestine." Interesting. So now they're just saying this blatant. Like, that's one thing I can say. At least with these Bob Villain characters, they're just now saying exactly what it is. Like, why would you connect pro-Palestine or free Palestine with death to an entire group of people? I mean, it's likely one of two things. You are genuinely an evil, inhumane individual, or you are so deeply brainwashed that you can't put this together. Here are people who were invaded, attacked, kidnapped, slaughtered, and there's still at least 50 hostages to this day, 4 of them being American. And I know this about America. If this happened in the States, if it was just the 4 hostages who were taken, there would be no war. It would be flatlined. A lot more has happened for a lot less. I'll just say that. So yeah, there's a lot of folks who are standing on the wrong side of history. And I pray for them, as far as I really hope they wake up to what they're doing, because it's going to be real ugly on the other side. And when I say the other side, I'm talking about more than just, flesh and bone. I'm talking about the eternal. Things are going to look real, real ugly on the other side. If folks don't start to wake up and realize, wait a minute, we're giving over to some of the most hateful, genocidal sort of ideologies. We are supporting a terror regime. That one right there is going to be the grand awakening for a lot of people when they look back to be like, damn, I was part of that. I egged that on, and look what that became. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3-6-5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.